Good morning. Welcome to another session on environmental impact assessment. So we'll carry on with introduction. Course outcome describing the objectives, capability and limitations of EA, learning outcome, classification of impacts. And here what we are going to see is that a typical example of a project uh, with a classification of impacts, right? Specific outcome, definition of impact, types of impacts. So in this session, we are going to see particular case study of development project and how they are actually classifying impacts as primary and as well as secondary, right? So we shall continue with where we left. So if you take a typical road development project, right? So first thing is you are clearing the land, which is a direct impact. So when you clear the land, what happens is that all the trees and plants, shrubs, they're all cut off. So what happens is that when there is a rainfall or when there's heavy flood, what happens is that the water actually washes out all the top layer of the soil. So erosion takes place, right? Erosion takes place. Why? Because you cut off all the trees and shrubs, so the water is not going to get reclaimed off. They are just washed off. So this leads to increase in the suspended matter in the water bodies. What happens is that all the silt and the sediments are getting deposited in the rivers and also maybe in the dams. So as a result of which, as a result of that, their capacity gets reduced. The river flowing capacity and the dam storing capacity is affected. Why? Because the bottom of the dam has a lot of silt content, and when all these rivers are flowing into the dam with a lot of silt, the capacity of the dam is reduced. So this may also lead to reduction in the water quality in the downstream side of a river. So when you take a river, you've got something called the upstream river and upstream side of the river, and you've got something called the downstream side of the river. So when you're standing at a particular point in the river, the if you look at your left side, right, the the direction on the left side or uh, the the stretch of the river that is onto your left is called the upstream side of the river, and the stretch of the river that is towards your right side, you are facing the river, so the stretch towards the right side is the downstream side of the river. So that is the meaning of upstream side and downstream side. So what happens on the downstream side is the water quality goes down, and water is not suitable for usage for human beings and also maybe animals, right? So when this road development project is being executed, what are the parameters that are going to get affected? One is the soil, right? So the direct impact will be compaction of the soil by earth moving equipments. You'll use a lot of equipments to compact the soil, meaning you'll have to compress the soil. So that is a direct impact on the soil. And erosion modification of the surface, relief of burrow zones. This may be also considered as a direct impact. Loss of the topsoil, right? Soil, the topsoil is being lost. So that is also direct impact. An indirect impact will be over exploitation of agricultural soils due to future development in a zone sensitive to erosion, right? Uh, Another indirect impact will be irreversible salinization and acidification of soils, right? So irreversible salinization means what? Salinization is in the soil is affected by salts, right? Salts. So when you have a lot of salt content in the soil and you're not able to bring back the soil to its original quality, it is irreversible salinization. Or sometimes what will happen is it may get acidified. So when you look at the pH, right? pH less than 7 is acidity and pH more than 7 is basic or saline, right? So what happens is that when the salinity goes down, you have acidification. When the salinity goes up more than pH more than 7, it is salinization or uh, basic, right? Coming to the water, modification of the flowing surface water in some areas causing erosion siltation is an indirect impact. Modification of water flows during construction, right? This is a direct impact. Sedimentation near crossings of presently cultivated floodplains, that's a direct impact. Modification of surface and subsurface water flows and resulting drying or flooding is an indirect impact. Pollution of water table by uh, some equipment, fuels, lubricants, detergents is a direct impact, right? Displacement of salinity threshold into the mangrove swamp zone, its effect on flora and fauna, right, is a indirect impact. So when it comes to flora, right, flora is the plants, right? Flora and fauna. You might have heard this term, flora and fauna. So 260 hectares of deforestation and clearance is a direct impact. Destruction of plantings, direct impact. Reduction of forest around swamps from modified water flow and increased agricultural use is an indirect impact. Disappearance of reproduction and flood zones for species, aquatics and birds is an indirect impact. Reduction of mangrove plant population is a direct impact. Erosion on the coastline is an indirect impact. Increasing the farming activity, reduction of fallow times in impoverishment of soil is an indirect impact. Coming to the fauna, reduction in mangrove fauna, right, is an indirect impact caused due to some previous what do you say, caused due to some direct effect. You have an indirect effect, which is reduction in the fauna. Increase in poaching during work periods and subsequent hunting and fishing is an indirect impact. Why? Because the direct one is the removal of the forest, destruction of the forest. So indirectly what happens is that animals don't have any habitat, so this results in increase in the poaching of the animals, right? Subsequent hunting of animals. Increase in tourism, that is an indirect impact. Okay, for example, you have increased the aesthetic nature of the particular city by planting more trees, right, and providing a lot of water bodies and dams and so on. So what happens is this increases tourism. It is an indirect impact. When it comes to category of people, loss of farms and homes, a direct impact. Reduction in agriculture production is an indirect impact. Increase in consumption of the wood, particularly from the mangrove swamps, is an indirect impact. Reduce in fishing potential is an indirect impact. Increase in the land tenure conflicts and conflicts between farmers and cattle breeders is an indirect impact. Increase in speed of propagation of the endemic disease, it is an indirect impact. So coming to the positive impacts, right? Providing all-weather road link for coastal population with urban markets, institutions, and goods is a direct impact. Sale of dried fish products, increase the quicker transport and access, a direct impact. More effective sale of rice from industrial growers and small-scale growers is a direct impact. Creation of jobs, increased access or improved access to medical help is an indirect impact. So we come to the end of this session, right? So we have seen the uh, examples for direct and indirect impacts with the help of a construction project, that is road development project. Sorry, not construction projects, a road development project. So we have a quiz here. Which of the following could be a consequence of long-term impact? Fever, common cold, handicapped children, D, none of the above. Thank you. Thus, we come to the end of this session. Thank you for your participation. Looking forward to meeting you in the next session.